stuck between a libertarian and a Republican? Welcome to Publitarian Podcast.
I know. It's been a long time since I've done a podcast. I did my belated 4th of July podcast, and then I just disappeared into the ether. So I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, bringing you another episode of Publitarian Podcast. The Publitarian beer fridge is humming in the background, and the Publitarian drink of the day is a Long Island iced tea. Do not at me. Men can drink Long Island iced teas. I'm doing it. Because if you can't do a podcast while tipsy, then why even do it? Tipsiness aside, which I'm not yet, I just started having a drink. By the way, drink responsibly. You have to be 21 and over. Kids, don't do drugs. Disclaimer. Okay. This may be kind of a loosely structured episode today because I have been pouring my heart and soul, attempting to anyway, into the China episode that I've been working on. If you guys are familiar with one of my favorite podcasts, Wise Guys Show, Rob over there has been pouring his efforts into an expose about the religious right of the 50s and 60s that birthed the hippie communists of the 60s and 70s that answered back to the religious right and then drove us into liberalism and Marxism where we are today. He's been teasing that episode for as long as I've known him, which has been about 3 years. So I am hoping this China episode that I'm working on that exposes everything that China is, what they were, what they are, and what they're aspiring to. I hope that it doesn't take that long to produce this episode, but I'm still working on it. And what's funny is I'll put all this production work into it, and you usually won't do a lot of downloads. The ones that I do the highest production value, I know you've heard me talk about this before if you're a regular listener, but the ones that I do the highest production value, the ones where I really put the blood, sweat, and tears into it, don't get that many downloads. And then the ones where I'm just like shooting from the hip, pulling it out of my butt, those are the ones that do crazy numbers. So here we are. I'm going to be doing that today anyway, just because I'm pressed for time today, but I knew that I had to get a podcast out to you guys. So that was almost 3 minutes of expose, but here we go into the main podcast. There has been so much in the news going on. I don't even know where to start. There is a Congressman, Adam Smith, that recently said that it's not China's job to warn us about the virus, and it's Donald Trump's job. This guy gets like clown of the decade. Do I even need to explain why that is so asinine? How's Trump going to warn us, you moron, if China doesn't warn us? Forget all the government agencies we have. Trump is just supposed to be Paul Revere sitting on top of the Statue of Liberty with his telescope and his old-fashioned, ear horn sticking out of his ear, and he's just going to make sure that everything's okay. So the President of the United States is going to warn us about something that he doesn't know about. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, Adam Smith, you clown. Oh, God, that one was just stuck in my craw, so I wanted to get that one out of the way. Real genius there. Another thing that's going on that thankfully looks like it's going to be stricken down by HUD Secretary Ben Carson. The AFFH. This is and these bills are always named like so reasonable and so innocent. The AFFH. It stands for the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. Basically what this does is it takes low-income housing and injects it into suburbia. On the surface, if you were to strip everything away, if you're kind of like a low-information person and not really thinking about it long-term, you'd be like, what's wrong with that? People kind of living together, lower-income people, yeah, sure, why not? Why can't they live with higher income people? That's fair. That's fair, right? Speaking of fair, please remember this. The more reasonable and nice sounding the bill is titled, or the act, the bill or the act, the more destructive it is. The nicer sounding it is, the more destructive it is. Elizabeth Warren's famous consumer fairness bill in the early 2000s. And how could I forget the Affordable Care Act? So affordable. And we're still paying the price for the Affordable Care Act. So if something in the bill says equal or fair, you have a 99.9% chance of knowing that it is not going to be fair or equal, and that is going to expand government and or promote Marxism. So what's happening with this bill? I really wanted to touch on this, but like I said, it looks like it's going to be shot down anyway by Secretary Carson. But so what this plan does, like I said, it interjects like low income apartment buildings, housing like that into regular like suburbia. And so the nefarious thing behind this, what this does, is the 2016 election was kind of like a wake-up call to Democrats. It's why they're trying to abolish the Electoral College. Because, yes, Hillary did get more votes than Donald Trump, but by a couple million. And, of course, we can argue that a lot of those were illegal immigrants and people that are voting twice and dead people. Because if you listen to this podcast, I've been harping about voter fraud forever. So, yes, while that is the case, let's put that or maybe the case, let's put that aside for a second and just talk about the number of votes. Okay, so she had 3 million more, popular votes than Donald Trump. Where were those votes? These large, like urban, squashed-in areas such as New York, L.A., Chicago, places like that. So with the Electoral College in place and the way these districts draw their maps, if she has 3 million more votes in L.A. County, it doesn't matter. Hillary's already won L.A. County. So those votes just go to nowhere. It's kind of like racking up a bunch of points in a game when you've already won the game. It doesn't matter. You've already won the game. So the Democrats are kind of seeing this as lost votes. So what they're really trying to do with this redistricting and injecting people into suburbia, it's not for some kind of crazy fairness or, gentrification or anything like that. It's to start getting them to carve up and redraw the districts and to get votes in those areas that will matter and bring small victories in like these local elections and start taking votes away from suburbia. That's what it's for. It's just yet another power grab. So keep your eye on that. Like I said, I think Carson's going to shoot it down. But if Trump loses the 2020 election, which I don't think he's going to do, but if he does, you can rest assured this is a Joe Biden plan, and it will go into practice. It will become a thing. There are some conspiracy theories out there that saying Biden's not going to be the nominee. I mean, yeah, he is definitely in some kind of stage of dementia. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but just look at the guy. So one of the theories is his whoever he picks for his vice presidential candidate will step in and fill that role. I almost 100% guarantee you it's going to be a female for, woke SJW points. Elizabeth Warren, I've been hearing some scuttlebutt about her, it possibly being her. She's an old, politician from, she's been in the game forever, so she could be the pick. I've also heard Kamala Harris being floated about. Kamala Harris, by the way, if you've seen the original Batman with Michael Keaton, and you remember the Jack Nicholson version of the Joker, that's kind of what I was reminded of when I saw Kamala Harris. If you haven't seen, she's had some kind of work done on her face. I don't know if it's Botox, collagen. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, she looked like she got the happy clown Jack Nicholson juice shot into her face. And when I saw that screenshot of her talking, all I could think of was like, wait till they get a load of me. I mean, it was just uncanny. So anyway, Biden may have the Joker as his VP pick. We may see, or he may have Tammy Duckworth, who's a senator on stolen land. I'm not going to get into her again. Jeez Louise. Some rare entertainment news for you guys. I am a musician in real life. I'm also a gamer. I play a lot of games. I find it hard nowadays to play any kind of video game that's from the Western world, because it's just, everything is so SJW and woke. It's just so much amount of overt politics being placed into video games that it's hard to navigate and it's hard to get away from. So if I do have any gamers listening, I did play a game that was refreshing, I would say. It was called Beneath a Steel Sky, or Beyond a Steel Sky. And it turns out it's a sequel to an old, like, 1990s, PC point-and-click game. When I say PC, I mean, like, personal computer, not politically correct. And what's funny is I just saw this game on a whim, and I'm like, oh, that kind of looks cool, and I played it. It was very refreshing to play a video game that just entertained. It just told a story, and it entertained. It didn't inject any kind of heavy-handed class envy, class warfare, woke politics, soft Marxism into it. And it was refreshing. It was nice. So that's why I'm giving the game a shout out. So if anybody's a gamer, I would definitely check out that game, Beyond a Steel Sky, Beneath a Steel Sky. There are two games. That's why I'm getting the two confused. Yeah, it was called Beyond a Steel Sky. The original game from the 90s was Beneath a Steel Sky. So I would give that a look. What's funny, I was looking at the reviews on Steam, and somebody was asking a question like, is this a woke game? I'm so tired of woke games. And then he got a bunch of hate comments underneath like, oh, God forbid you're subjected to some other kind of opinion. And I found that super ironic. I'm like, do you think the left side of the opinion is something new, something brand new that we've never heard before? I mean, I would say that it's hard to escape left-wing opinions. Forget about being exposed to them. I don't know if you can escape them or not in the current landscape we have. So anyway, just a quick shout out for that game if I have any gaming listeners out there. So I saw an interesting article in Breitbart where Trump is up ahead of Biden in 7 out of the 10 battleground states. My own state, Florida, the penis of America, I didn't see any news on. Florida, seriously, is just a mixed bag. It can go either way. We've got 3 big liberal cities in Florida, and we definitely have voter fraud. So, I mean, it's really just a mixed bag. It's why we're called a purple state. So we'll see what happens with that. I still think Trump's got a good shot. Definitely get out there and vote. Just don't think he's got it in the bag. Get out there and vote. Actually, go to the polls and vote. Unless you just absolutely can't. And when you're voting, remember this. Because back in the day, people used to discourage, like, down ballot voting. And what is that? That's just looking at D or R and just casting your vote and just going straight down the ballot, D or R. And the prevailing theory it used to be, oh, well, I just want the right person for the job. That's out the window. There's not going to be any D's working with R's anymore. So I would strongly encourage you coming up, because there's a lot of local elections and state elections coming up, to, yes, definitely down ballot vote. Anything that's got an R behind its name, vote. And then judges, people always have a hard time finding information on judges, especially in, like, local elections. You really just got to do your homework, because if you get a liberal judge on the bench, well, you know how that goes. If you put liberals in power, you know how it goes. Look no further than Seattle, Portland, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, New York. You know what's going to happen if you put a D in power. So you need to give the D to the D's and vote R. Because remember this, a Democrat will 99.9% of the time be a Democrat. If you vote for a Democrat, you are guaranteed within 99.9% to get a Democrat. A Republican, you got a 50-50 shot. So if you vote for a Republican, you may get a Republican, you may get a Democrat light, you may get a rhino. So Republicans, when you vote Republican, you have a 50-50 shot. Maybe you'll get a Republican, maybe you won't. And I know, spare me the two-party system thing. I know a two-party system sucks, but I can't operate in how I want the world to be. I have to operate how the world is. And the way the world is right now in America is we have a two-party system. We got D's and R's. And some fringe, angry libertarians out there that are throwing their votes away. So I would encourage you to down ballot vote Republican all the way, because at least then you've got a 50-50 shot. If you vote Democrat, almost 100% you're going to get a Democrat. Because and I've said this before on previous podcasts, there's only two options with liberals and Democrats. They're either serving the Kool-Aid or they're drinking the Kool-Aid. That means they either know what they're doing and they know what their ideals are and they are serving the Kool-Aid to the masses, or they are just low information people, believe everything that's on Netflix, media, entertainment, and whatever news that comes across Apple News on their iPhone. And that's what they ingest. They ingest their programming, and that's all they know. So they're either serving the Kool-Aid or drinking the Kool-Aid. And I think that's going to do it for this ramble. I really didn't have too much of that planned. Not bad. I almost got a 20-minute podcast out of it. Anyway, like I said, my apologies for not getting a podcast out to you guys sooner. I really appreciate my followers and fans out there. My Instagram, despite shadow banning, has been blowing up, and I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you guys. I don't know if you're getting the word out or if Instagram gods have finally lifted the shadow ban, but I've gained like maybe 200 followers within the past week, so that's great. My Parler has been blowing up. I've been getting a lot of follows on my Parler. I think all it took was a couple of big name podcasters, some tier 3 podcasters. I'm a humble tier 1 podcaster, but I think it just took a couple of tier 3 podcasters to say, hey, I'm making the jump. I'm going over to Parler. And I'm starting to see followers like explode over there. But anyway, I'm also on Gab. I've got like 23 followers on Gab. It's why I don't post on Gab that much. I really just don't get a lot of traffic on there. I'm also on Minds. I haven't posted that much on Minds anymore. A lot of the other like attempts at free speech social media have been abandoned, so I'm not really active on those anymore. So Instagram is still like my baby, but and I do occasionally post on Facebook, but it's rare. So anyway, that will do it for me on this edition of Publitarian Podcast. If you want to email me, you can on publitarian@gmail.com or thepublitarian@gmail.com. Like I said, I'm on all the social medias, and I will see you next time on Publitarian Podcast. Take it easy.
You've been listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2020.